Hey, Kage back again. Today we're gonna take some look at some reviews on Final Fantasy 16 since there's been review bombing, so I thought I would look up some reviews and see what they're about. So let's start with the first review. So much cutscenes, so much interruptions, so much FPS drops, so much quality drops, so much performance issues. There is no RPG elements in the game, which is actually JRPG game. I don't want watching anime, bro. I just want to play the game. Well, personally speaking, from my experience, I haven't experienced any interruptions or FPS drops or even quality drops for that matter, but can't say that he didn't experience them. Just saying on my side, I didn't have anything like that. And there is no RPG elements in the game. Then here comes the question, what do you define as an RPG game? Because on basis an RPG game is a role-playing game, and technically speaking you do role-play as Clive. Don't see the issue there. Let's move on to the next review. Combat is very basic. Simply press square to win, the characters are boring, and it tries and fails to draw inspiration from Game of Thrones. This game is only an RPG in name. If you want to watch a movie while simulating playing a game, then this is for you. It also includes quick time events. Well, if you have problems with the story in a game, that it has a lot of cutscenes or whatnot, then maybe a heavy story game is not for you. Have you considered that? Far too many cutscenes for the next review. Far too many cutscenes. It's 1 minute gameplay then 10-minute cutscene. A very stop-start game which feels more like a movie than an actual game. Also, the enemies are just body sponges. There isn't really anything tactical in the fighting other than smashing buttons with over-the-top effects. The larger battles are set pieces that rely on quick time events. The game has a lot less exploration, and side quests are nothing more than repetitive fetch, kill, tag to quests. Oh boy. Like I said, cutscene wise, if you have a problem with cutscenes being in the game, don't play a story game. Simple as that. Play a game where there's just gameplay. As for the fact that it's 1 minute gameplay and 10-minute cutscene, well, that depends on how you play. If you rush from one point A to one point B, then yeah, you're only gonna get to experience the story battles there, and those can be engaging and those can also be quite long, but if you don't go off the path anywhere to kill the other mobs that are around or try to explore what little there is to explore, then yeah, I guess it is 1 minute gameplay and then cutscenes. Now the next review, more akin to a visual novel than an action RPG. When fighting multiple enemies, screen is filled with too many effects to actually be able to strategically battle. Spam square, hit power, wait for cooldown, repeat. The odd R1 dodge icon battles are taken away from you halfway through and turned cinematic, all a bit boring. So, visual novel. Completely disagree. For a visual novel you would need to read it constantly and there's nothing else but just reading through the game. But I guess it's the word akin to it. But even then I don't agree with it. There is cutscenes and there's a lot of them, but still not the same. As for fighting multiple enemies with too many effects to be able to strategically battle, then it is an action combat style. If you wanna battle strategically, play a tactical combat game. Play something like Fire Emblem or something else. That's a strategical tactical game if you want a strategical combat. That's all I gotta say on that one. Next review. The story is poorly paced. I personally don't connect with any of the poorly written characters and how sexist and racist the story is. The lack of RPG elements in my RPG series left a bad taste in my mouth. The story is infinitely more confusing than any FF before it. It's so incomplete and incomprehensible. It feels like more often than not I am watching the game more than playing it. Personally, I don't think the story is poorly paced, and I don't see the sexist part of the game or the racist part. If you mean the racist part of not including black characters in the game, then or slaves only being white people, then it's Europe. Even nowadays, if you go to a country I come from, you won't really see many black people, and nowadays the travel is more accessible. So back then there certainly wasn't that many black people in Europe. Don't see where the problem would be there. I don't agree with the fact that just because the world wants it that it must be included. If you're set in a certain setting, you shouldn't change that setting. But oh well. On to the next review then. Great game, just a terrible Final Fantasy game. Well, it is a great game, but still gives 0 review score just because it's named Final Fantasy. Then what is a Final Fantasy game? What defines a Final Fantasy game being Final Fantasy? Is it its story? Because if so, there is the story. If it's turn-based combat, then it's not really that, is it? Because over the games there's been multiple types of combat systems and not all of them are turn-based. So that means any other game that's not tactical combat would mean it's not a Final Fantasy game. Alright, next review. Doesn't play like a true Final Fantasy game in my opinion. Bring back turn-based combat. A fair enough review on this one. Prefers turn-based combat, that's fine. But again, it's not the fact that it's turn-based combat that makes it Final Fantasy. It's its story and the world of the setting it's set in that makes it Final Fantasy. It doesn't have to be turn-based combat. There's plenty of Final Fantasy games out there that are not turn-based combat and they're still doing fine. But nevertheless, that's all for today. Feel free to debate me in the comments section. Looking forward to people talking about it. Alright, I'll see you next time.